Welcome to Voices of the Plaza, the podcast, hosted by Peggy MacArthur. This is where we amplify stories of empowerment, innovation, and success from the heart of the Global Business Plaza. Each week, Peggy introduces us to one of the creative business people, entrepreneurs, and industry experts who are shaping their fields and redefining success. Together, we'll explore unique journeys, highlight remarkable expertise, and uncover the inspiration behind their success.
Welcome to Voices of the Plaza, the podcast. I have the honor today of sitting with Dr. Karen Moore. Karen, I'm excited to chat with you because literally I'm always excited to chat with you. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. I'm always excited to chat with you also. Thank you so much for having me.
So before I have some questions to ask you today, but before I get started, tell people in a nutshell, if that's possible, what you do and what your specialty is.
I am the founder of the Color of Beautiful Media and Entertainment Group, where we are redefining the standard of beauty for dark-skinned Black women and dark-skinned women of color, helping them move beyond the negative impact of colorism. And we do that through film and storytelling and theater and digital content and digital products.
So you are a filmmaker. You are a consultant. You are a spoken word genius. I mean, you really have it. You have a lot of things going on. What is one thing that you are really, really good at, and that you love doing that people don't really know about you?
Wow.
What is the secret superpower that you haven't showed yet?
I think it's that I really do love storytelling. And I love finding unique ways to do storytelling. And so I've been doing a lot with AI recently to enhance some storytelling. And so I think that really it's so much about story. Everything is about story. And the importance of telling our stories and having people have the opportunity to hear our stories and to be able to relate. Because a lot of people, sometimes we think that people can't really relate to our stories or what it is we're dealing with or going through. But if you tell your story, there's always someone, I think, who can relate in some way or another. So I really love storytelling. I love it.
I agree with you. I think that storytelling is the best way to connect with people. I I always wonder if people think I tell too many stories because that's kind of how I do relate. It's like, oh, this happened and blah blah blah. So yeah, I love it. But I do think it shows the human side of people as well, because it's easy for us to look at someone else and think, oh, well, they're there right now and they're better at everything than I am. I could never do what they're doing because I have all these struggles, or I have this problem, or I have this
Mm.
thing. And when you tell your story, then people can be like, oh, she was actually just human too, and she overcame these things, or she sidestepped this, or
Right,
and I
right.
think it really, an inspirational story doesn't have to be what Hallmark calls an inspirational story. An
That's true.
inspirational story can be like, life really sucked and it was hard and I failed. And I woke up
Right,
this morning
exactly.
alive, you know?
Yes. And the fact that you failed, but you found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And people hearing that inspiration behind finding a way to make it work, and that you something that you overcame, people identify with that. And you can never tell too many stories. You can never tell too many stories.
So, what do you think that people constantly get wrong about your work and what you do and the purpose that you have for what you do?
I think that people constantly get wrong that there is still an issue of colorism. I think that people think that it's not that important or that we're beyond that, when it is very important, and we're still experiencing it as Black women, as women of color, that there still is this issue of treating people differently because of their shade. We know the race and treating people different because of their sex or treating them different because of how they identify. I think that sometimes people aren't always as aware that there still is a problem with treating people differently just because of the shade of their skin happening inside of our communities as well as outside of our communities. So I think that people tend to get that wrong. And lots of times, even within our communities, we want to believe it doesn't exist anymore, but it does. And if we're honest about it, we will see that we will acknowledge that it does exist. So I think it's the idea that we still have to talk about it because it still does exist and it still needs to be addressed.
I agree with you. And I think something else that when I first met you, I think something that you didn't realize is how important it is for people what you do, how important what you do is for people that look like me.
Yes. You
Because
did make me realize that. Yes.
it's not just about because I know when we met, you were like, I work with black women. I work with black women. And I was like, hey, people that look like me need to hear this. Like, we need to understand.
Right.
Everyone needs to understand, men,
Yes.
women, black, white, whatever.
Right.
Everyone needs to understand. And it's not just a black thing or a white thing. It's all different races have these colorism issues. Like,
Right.
this is real, and it goes deep. And it can be as simple as, family teasing, each other. But those teases like build things. And when you don't realize the impact that it has, especially on women. I mean, it has an
Yes.
impact on men, but especially on women. When when beauty is so bestowed on us as a value, like our worth is tied to our beauty, and it's the subconscious messaging all over the place, and it's so ridiculous.
It is, and I think that it's even when we look at the stories that we read to little girls about beauty and how beauty is emphasized in these stories, and if we're not very mindful of it, our girls are growing up thinking that this is the only standard of beauty that there is, and so if I don't look like Sleeping Beauty, then I'm not beautiful.
Hmm.
And so those are things that we really do have to understand and address. And it's like you said, even though it may not necessarily be colorism in different races, there's still that idea that there are things that are considered beautiful. And I mean, you are a beautiful blonde haired, blue eyed woman. But that whole standard of even for little white girls, if I don't have blonde hair and blue eyes, then I'm not beautiful.
Right. And then it goes into size, and then it goes into, and
Yes.
then it goes into, and then it goes into, and then it goes
Yeah,
into.
exactly. And we're always trying to measure up. We're
Uh-huh.
always trying to measure up and fit into that standard of beautiful that someone else told us is what it is.
My parents took a different stance on this early on because in the 70s, I don't think, a lot of people, and they didn't do it in a good way. But I think they saw the problem with, and I'm the third of three girls. And so we were really told that we were not pretty. We missed the mark. Like, we were like knocked down pretty hard for, so, so it's funny that although these standards, you can't swing the pendulum, your value shouldn't be placed in whether you're aesthetically whatever people want or not. But to devalue is just as bad. And, to devalue someone of darker skin or to devalue, it's a
Yeah.
conversation that everyone needs to have. Because, I've heard, the white person thing, like, oh, you're really beautiful for a black woman. What the, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because honestly, you know, I feel like there are so many stunning black women, and just
Yeah.
women in general of all different sizes and shapes
Yes.
that it's and as a photographer, I think I look at beauty in a different way.
Yes. Yes.
And so to me, I've always been confused, um, because I find the beauty in the uniqueness. I find the beauty in the, oh my God, like I have to photograph this is so beautiful, and not the necessarily aesthetically popular ways. So I don't know. When I met you, I was like, this is such powerful work that you do. So powerful. I'm ranting here for no reason. Let me give the mic back to you.
It is very important work, and it is work that I have felt is very important, and it's so important for not just women but for girls too. And the bullying and things that go on just because of the shade of your skin, it's something that's got to be addressed, and we have to continually address it and make sure that people are not just pushing it under the rug like they tend to do with colorism. It's not, it doesn't exist, and it's not all that important. And it's very important that we address it and that people begin to understand about defining beauty for themselves. Define beauty for yourself. Know that you are beautiful, and you define that for yourself. You don't allow other people to define it for you. No one gets to tell you you're not beautiful. No one gets to do that.
No one gets to do that. So tell me, I mean, you have such powerful work. Tell me kind of the like what was the moment when you were like, screw this, I'm going to make a film about it. I'm going to tell a story about it. I'm going to stand on the mountaintop and scream about it. When did that happen?
I was asked to do a panel discussion for African American Women in Cinema Film Festival. And so the founder said to me, asked me if I knew of a short film on colorism. And if I didn't, then I could go ahead and make one. So, I love a challenge. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and do this film, Who Told You Your Black is Not Beautiful? And it was a challenge. It was really a challenge. I didn't realize how much of a challenge it was going to be, but it was a challenge. And the particular film that I did not only talked to dark skinned black women, but also talked to light skinned black women, because we do understand that light skinned black women do suffer the residual effects of colorism. Many of them have been bullied and teased as well because of their light skin. And so we talked to both darker skinned and lighter skinned women in the film to understand that, once again, no one gets to tell you you're not beautiful. No matter what shade your skin is, no one gets to tell you that. So, and then we look at who told you that, and we kind of look at it. We do a glimpse of colorism and how it started with slavery and the idea of the the house slaves and the field slaves, and the house slaves are the lighter slaves, so they got to be in the house, and the darker slaves in the field. And it was this whole idea of separation, because a house divided against itself
Hmm.
cannot stand. So it's this whole idea of separation, and how can we separate people so they will not stand together. And unfortunately, that still reigns true now, even so, when we're still dealing with these issues of color and who's beautiful and who's valuable and who's worthy, and we're associating it so many times with color.
Exactly. And this whole division thing, I mean, it's so deep, and you're right. That was the whole thing. Keep them divided, because if they pull together, they can overtake us. So we've got to divide them. So let's divide them on this. And, for white people, oh, well, you may be poor, but at least you're not black. Like
Right.
that's still division, because heaven forbid that we all, pull together, because there's
Yeah.
power in togetherness, and
Yes.
there isn't when, if you divide that. So that's exactly the thing. It's
Yeah.
just another tool of division. It's ridiculous.
It is. It is. And unfortunately, many times we don't realize how we're being divided, and the effect that it's having on us as a community, as a people, that division. But that's how we're controlled. That's how the media controls us, and that's how, even now, what's happening in this country, that's how we're being controlled, is to divide people and put people on different sides of the aisle, and not understanding that it's supposed to be about people and about humanity and about coming together to resolve some of these issues, not being divided.
And that's exactly how they're getting their power, is through the division
Yes.
and through the propaganda and through the, pss, 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 really
Right.
putting that in there. And it's dangerous. It is so
It's
dangerous.
very dangerous. Yes.
And dealing with colorism is a way to point that out. Hey, look what's happening here. Oh, look, it's happening in the big picture as well.
Right.
See
Yes,
how
it
that
is.
works.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think? What have you seen that you feel like, I have this message, I need people to see this, and they're just not seeing it. They're not ready to see it yet. What do you think that is, that you might be just a step or two ahead of everybody, and you're like, can you just see what I'm saying?
That's really a good question. I think that for one thing, it's that when you start talking about isms, and people sometimes just want to pretend it's just not happening, it's not going on, and that, everything is fine. I know sometimes I feel like that, even that I'm just like, okay, everything is fine. We keep telling ourselves everything is fine, but it's not. And so I think that many times people are dealing with so much, especially now. They're dealing with so much. And if we can try to pretend like it doesn't exist, then we'll feel better. We want to try to pretend that racism doesn't exist, and some people think they'll feel better because no, really, it doesn't exist. But yeah, actually, it does. Sexism, all of the isms, they all do exist, and at some point, you're going to have to address it, whether it be now or whether it be later. But at some point, you're going to have to address it. And the sooner we address it, the better off we'll be. But I think that there's still that idea that, I just don't even want to deal with it. I want to pretend like everything is fine and everybody's fine. And, I love you, you love me, and all that kind of stuff. That's what we want to really try to believe and tell ourselves, and not really look at what's really happening around us and what's going on, and really wanting to say, okay, yes, this is happening, and I want to change. I want it to change. But I think that people are in such a state right now that, oh my gosh, this is one more thing we have to deal with and address. I just want to pretend like it doesn't exist.
And I think pretending like it doesn't exist is a lot of the reason why we are where we are right now. Because pretending like it didn't exist, okay, that was fixed in the 60s. We're good now. We're fine. You know, 70s came along, women can get a checking account, they're fine now. Like, you know what I mean? These problems are
Exactly.
behind us. There's none of these
They're
isms
not.
are existing. Let's just keep moving forward and put a smile on your face. And because of that, because it's easier to ignore it than to dive deep and do the hard work and realize,
Exactly.
oh, I may not be racist, but I take advantage of a system that discriminates and that was built for that, and trying to deconstruct all of that. And I think it's really important that we realize that colorism is one aspect of that, and
Right.
that's something that can be solved. Like, that's like, let's work on this, let's work on that, let's keep
Right.
taking chunks out, because burying our head in the sand and putting on the little smiley face mask and saying everything is fine, god is
Right.
here, god is here.
Exactly. And I think that, I always say to people that we have to stop bleeding on ourselves, bleeding on each other, and bleeding on our children. And if we don't begin to really address these issues, that's all we're doing is bleeding all over each other and
Yeah.
bleeding on our children. And our children definitely don't need to come up under these same kinds of systems and not understand that, yes, this does exist, but that's not who you are. And like you talked about the name calling and things like that, that's not who you are. And, we've got to get to a place where we recognize that and we tell our girls that, no, you are beautiful and you are valuable and you are worthy and you have the right to be in all of the spaces that you want to be in. Yes, you're going to encounter this issue, but you've got to know who you are and you've got to believe that you are beautiful and valuable and worthy.
I love that. I love that. And because it is a pattern. It is a pattern. And when we recognize that pattern, we can disrupt that pattern.
Yes. And it goes back to it's a cliche, but it's so true. Hurt people hurt people. And if we haven't addressed our hurts, all we're doing is hurting each other. And so we've got to address the hurt that exists within us. And that's what The Color of Beautiful is about having these conversations and addressing the hurt that we've experienced that many of us have carried for decades and have not really addressed because somebody in our family called us a name or treated us differently. Or when we went to school, someone treated us differently, called us a name. And we carry this hurt for decades and we don't realize that it's still there. It causes so much of how we relate to things and how we relate to people because we haven't dealt with it and we haven't had the necessary conversations to address it.
So let's talk about your film and how people can watch your film and go through it. You have it set up a really unique way. It's not just sit down and watch a film. So tell us about that.
Yes, the Who Told You You're Black is Not Beautiful virtual installation. Now we're actually moving right now, so we're moving. We're just going to say that we're moving, but the installation itself is about seeing each woman talk about her experience. And then we have digital elements that people can interact with. There's prompts and digital imagery and things that you can reflect on, seeing beauty in so many different ways. And then you have an opportunity to really listen to what is being said and to see how it affected you and be able to respond to that with journal prompts as to listening to what you heard and how you feel about it and what your particular experience is. And we have a meditation room because it can be very traumatic. We understand that visiting these thoughts and these feelings can sometimes bring up some trauma for people. So there's a meditation room where you can go and listen to really peaceful meditations to kind of bring you back to, okay, I am healing, I am getting better, and I am addressing the issue. So that's our virtual installation of Who Told You You're Black is Not Beautiful.
So my husband and I went through your installation, and we were like, I knew you for a while before I actually went through the installation, and I was blown away because the way it's set up, it's really, you get to hear these things, and then you get to really dive deep inside and really deal with, honest truths about things that you may not, we talk a certain way growing up. The people around us say certain things and we don't ever question them. That's just normal, and you just move on with life, and you don't think about the impact of it because it's just like one of the things you do. It's just how how you move. And so this really gives you the opportunity to question why we believe some of the things that we believe. And it's really impactful. And I know that you're under construction because you're moving so that the experience can be even more enhanced. And I'm excited for that. But people can find you at the Global Business Plaza. They can have a conversation with you. They can get on a mailing list so they know when you reopen here. It's not going to be that long before you reopen. So,
Right.
but what would you like to leave all of our listeners with today? What little Dr. Karen wisdom nugget would you like to leave us?
I would say to be kind. If we could just be kind to one another. I think that because you never know what someone's going through. And I say regularly that sometimes we think things are one thing and they really are something else. Sometimes not everything is racism. Sometimes people just have a bad day. Not everything is colorism. Sometimes people just have a bad day. I tell the story. I'll be real quick. I'll tell the story about I was at an event and the beautiful Nicole came in, who is very, very fair. And my first reaction was, okay, here she comes. Here comes the light skinned girl that's going to give me grief, right? But she wasn't at all like that. And she had just had a day. She sat down. She said, I can't believe I even made it here. I said, just take a deep breath, sis. You're good. And so we got to talking, and she wasn't who I decided she was because of how she looked. So I think we need to be kind to people. We need to have conversations. We need to be willing to listen to people and to offer grace. Many times people are just having a difficult time, and it's not because of the color of your skin or the shade of your skin or however you identify or any of that. It's just that sometimes it's just not a good day. And let's be kind to one another and show some grace. And now we have to acknowledge when it really is racism and it really is colorism, we're not diminishing that, but not everything is always that. And we need to try to be kind, and because people will show their true colors. You will know when it's really racism and when it's really colorism. You will know. But sometimes people are just having a bad day.
Sometimes people just have a bad day. I think that's a quote we could all put on our put on our screen to remind us, because there are times where people, do and say things, and you're like, "What in the world?" Maybe you
Yes,
don't know what just where they're coming from.
exactly.
Sometimes people. I've had bad days. I've done things that I'm ashamed of. I'm sure everybody has.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I've had to go back and apologize and say, I just was having a bad day. I apologize. Because we're human and we react instead of responding. We react.
That is my goal, is to respond and not react. And sometimes, like, I'm working on it really hard, and I'll have that feeling come up, and I'll be like, Peggy, do you need to react to this, or would you like to take a breath and respond? It's like, I think I'm
That's
going to
it.
respond to this today
That's
and
it.
see how that feels. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, that's the way I said it made it sound like it's so easy to do. And we all know that it is not easy to do that.
No, it's not. It's not.
But it is good. It is a good thing to
It
do.
is. It is.
Dr. Karen, thank you so, so much for being here today. I just really, really love chatting with you. And people, you need to talk to Dr. Karen. You need this. This is what you need in your life. Go to the globalbusinessplaza.com, go down to the directory, or find her little thumbnail and click on it. Make an appointment with her, chat with her, pick her brain, and see what amazing things she's doing. Jump on the waiting list so that you can get into the film and everything else that she does. And I will see you next week. Dr. Karen, thank you again for being
Thank you again, Peggy. It was a pleasure.
here. Bye bye.